Welcome back, everybody, to our podcast, Building Backwards, a journey to our roots. Today, I want to just have a conversation. I just want to talk about something that I talk about almost on a daily basis, and it's why I got started with homesteading. I actually had a conversation today with about three clients. They were asking me what made me start this journey into raising chickens and growing a garden. And so I wanted to share that with you all. And so before we get started, though, I just want to remind you of the merch store. We finally got a domain name. And so it is shoprrva.com. Again, that is shoprrva.com. And so Royal Roots VA has a store that you can purchase some items that have our logo on it. I actually have a sweatshirt here that I ordered, and I ordered it as if I was a customer because I just wanted to see what the process was going to be like, and I was very pleased with it. So we have a bunch of new things that I will be adding on a regular basis to this store, and so I thank you so much for your support. And so let's get started. So let's just talk. Let's go all the way back to I want to say 2017. In 2017, I had just had my fourth baby and I was trying to lose weight. I wanted to do something that I could stick to because I had tried to lose weight in the past. I had tried all types of diets. I had exercise, which is not an issue for me, but that's only half the battle. It was really like what I was eating. And at that time, I went through a divorce, and so I was newly broken up. I had this new baby. I was working. I still had my business. And I didn't have a lot of time to cook like really healthy meals. I was on that convenience food aisle and I was getting boxed things because I didn't have time to really prepare a full meal. And so I said, I need to do something different. And I started trying to cook from scratch on a regular basis. I already knew how to cook. I just didn't have the time, so I would say, to do it every night. I made up all types of excuses. I was tired. I didn't have the ingredients. I didn't have the money. And so I made up in my mind, I'm going to stop with the excuses. I'm going to take the hamburger helper off as an option, and we're going to eat something healthy, well balanced from scratch, preferably every night. And so that's where it started. And I would buy fresh produce from the produce aisle. I would get all the ingredients that I need in bulk that I could use throughout the month, flour, sugar, whatever I needed to do things all the way from scratch. I learned how to make broth, and I learned how to make sauces from scratch. So there was no more buying the jars of spaghetti sauce or buying the jars of Alfredo. And that's where I got started. Now, fast forward a couple of years later, I moved into a rental house because at this time in 2017, I didn't have the space to grow a garden. So I moved into a house and I said, I'm going to try this thing. I had been following a YouTuber who was talking about starting where you are and doing it, even if you just get a kiddie pool and throw some soil in there. And so I said, I'm going to start small. And I went to Lowe's and I bought some lumber and I had them cut the pieces the way that I needed and I built a garden bed. And I have a video on my YouTube channel. It's an old video of me building this garden bed. I may redo the video just so that I can kind of give some updates on how I do it. But I have a video of the first the type of garden bed I built the first time around. It was probably my third one by that time. And I went to the garden center and I bought some bag soil, which is very expensive. And so in my head, I thought I was going to be saving some money, but in reality, I was not. I was not saving money in the beginning. I had to actually buy some bag garden soil, and that was way more expensive than I expected. But I did that because I was already fully invested now. And they also had some flats of that you could purchase the mix and match of vegetables. It was the fall season. So they had like mustards, kale, collards, cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower. And so I bought a little bit of everything and I stuck them in this garden bed. Now, here's a funny story. When I got that flat, it was well over 20 plants. And on the little tag, it tells you that you need to space your plants out like 24 inches. And in my head, I'm going, these little plants do not need 2 feet in between them. I don't have 2 feet to give them. I had an 8x4 garden bed. It was just not going to work. And so I put them close together. And then nothing happened. They did not grow. Nothing happened. And I continued to watch this YouTuber. And so, like, she posted a video every day, and it was always some new information that I was getting. And I remember seeing a video, and she said, make sure you pay attention to what it said, the spacing, what that seed packet or what that marker says, because if you don't, your plants won't grow. And I said, oh my God, that is why she said, you're going to be tempted to put them close together because it's not going to look like they need that much space. But in reality, if you want them to grow, you need to space them out. So I went back to Lowe's and I got some more lumber and I built another garden bed and I went ahead and spaced them out. And my first year growing greens, fresh greens, was amazing. It was a game changer for me. So for a long time, I was buying the fresh produce from the grocery store. And I'm just going to use collards as an example. I would, it takes a while for those collards to get nice and tender when you get them from the grocery store. So I was cooking my collards for like 2 hours. I was slow cooking them in a heavy bottom stock pot and they took forever. And I don't think they ever got like completely tender. But that first year when I grew my own collards, I remember putting them in the pot and I came back to stir them and they had cooked down into mush like within an hour. And I was like, something is up. And to this day, I believe that the greens that you get from the grocery store are sprayed with something and it is preventing them from cooking the way that they should. And so I don't do that anymore. There is one place that I'll go to get fresh greens if I don't have them in my garden, and that's Publix. Publix is the only place that I've gotten greens from where they still don't take like 2.5 hours to like get tender, and they actually are really good. But my first time growing my garden and harvesting those greens, and I actually did a lot of mixed greens because the plants would grow. And again, this YouTuber said, you don't have to wait for the plants to get all the way big and then just take the whole plant down. You can go and peel off leaves and let the plant continue to grow. And so I would do that because I just wanted to be in the garden. It was a place of peace for me at that point. After I would get off work, if it was still light outside, I was in that garden. I was in there meditating. I was out there finding things to do. It was so peaceful. It was my space. I was a mom and a business owner, and I had no time for myself. And so this was my time for myself. And I would go out there and just make up things to do. So I go and I would pick some leaves off of those plants. And I eventually got a basket full of mixed greens and I cooked it and they were delicious. My kids loved them and they cooked down like nobody's business. Now the first time was a little mushy because I wasn't prepared. But after I realized that I didn't have to cook them for so long, that is just how I did my greens anytime I cook them. Like I actually to this day don't cook just one type of green by itself. It has to be like a mixture like kale and mustards or kale mustards and collards or turnips and mustard, something mixed because the flavor is amazing. But that was the turning point for me when I realized something had to have been sprayed on those greens at the grocery store that caused them to take so long to cook. And I started paying attention to stuff. It opened my eyes. I started paying attention to the things that we were eating even if I was going to the store and maybe I didn't have some chicken broth that I had made. So I would go and buy some chicken broth. And I started looking at the ingredients and I'm going, I don't put these things in my broth. Like I use water and chicken bones. And maybe I'll add some vegetables like onions or garlic or something for flavor. But that's it. I'm not putting these extra things and I'm canning them and it's healthy. And so I started paying attention to that and I said, I got to get serious about this. Like, I really have to do something about this. And then it also started making me pay attention to other things. Um, I I decided I wanted chickens. It was out the blue, but I decided I wanted chickens. And I had a client who had some chickens and I asked her a bunch of questions because I got to do my research. And she put me in contact with this guy. And I mean, when I go in, I have to go in all the way. Okay. This guy who built custom chicken coops. And I went to his website and I picked the most expensive chicken coop to get built. And he also had some chickens to sell. They were pullets. They were about 12 weeks old, so they weren't babies. But he brought them up. It was 7 of them, and he built my chicken coop, and I had my first set of chickens. Loved it. The kids loved it. It was something to add to my peaceful time when I didn't have anything else to do. We spent every weekend cleaning out the chicken coop. It was amazing. Okay. And then we started getting some eggs. The most exciting thing in the world. I also ended up with a rooster. It was supposed to be 7 females. One of them was a male. His name was Tyrone. My daughter named him. I don't know where she got Tyrone from. And we ended up giving him away because I was in a neighborhood that did not allow roosters. But we had the 6 hens and they were laying. And that's when I got introduced to chicken math. That is a real thing, y'all. So here's chicken math. You have some chickens, you're getting fresh eggs. You go to the feed store and it's chick season. And they have a breed that you don't have. And you're like, I want those. And so they have a rule where you have to buy at least 4 because their body temperature doesn't regulate. So you got 4. And you go home and you set up a whole new brooder. And then you run out of feed and you go back to the feed store and they have a different breed. And you're like, I need those. And so you got speckled chickens, you got silky chickens, you got blue egg laying chickens, you have brown chickens, you have black chickens, you have the ones that's black all over. Like I wanted every breed that they had. And so I ended up at one point with like 50 chickens. Y'all don't judge me. It was chicken math that took a hold of me. I was in a chokehold, y'all. I was. But I ended up learning how to process my chickens. Or for those of you that don't know what that means, I butchered some of my chickens and we ate them. And that's a bit of controversy in some of the conversations I have. Like, how can I raise these animals and then eat them? But one thing that I have learned is that we are controlling what we're putting in our body. So in reality, you go to the store and you buy some chicken. That was once a chicken someone raised. but we don't know what they're doing. They say that they're not putting antibiotics and steroids in them, but in reality, how was that chicken raised? Like, we don't know. And there's so much going on in our food that we don't know about that is being allowed, that I would rather know where my meat is sourced. And so I teach my kids that even though we love and we care for our chickens, they are a source of nutrition for us. They provide nutrients, and we respect them, and we care for them, and we make sure that they're clean. We feed them good. And when it is time, we will humanely process them. And unless you are vegan or vegetarian, there's really nothing that you can judge about that because you're eating it anyway. If you eat meat, you're just not the one sourcing it. So that's just my little tidbit on us processing our own chickens. But that's what I had to do because I had too many. And so we started doing that. So I started to actually invest in dual purpose birds where they lay a lot of eggs, but they also are good for meat. And in reality, I would love to have more animals. I just don't have the setup. But the little bit that I had really came like in the COVID time. We were good. Like me and the girls, I was a business owner. I still am, but I had a hair salon, like a full service hair salon and barbershop. And when they shut us down, I went from good income to zero, but still with the same exact amount of responsibilities. And as a self employed person, I didn't have paid time off or leave that I could use. I just had no income. And I was a saver and I had saved up a few months worth of, expenses. Well, number one, I was also pregnant with the twins. So I knew I was going out on maternity leave. So I had saved up for that. But we were shut down for 4 months. And then even after we were allowed to open back up, it was not the same. And so I went through that savings very fast. And I used my credit cards and maxed them out, just trying to maintain. Um, but one thing we didn't struggle so much on was food. I spent a lot of time during the beginning, like that 2 months, um, learning how to make pasta from scratch, learning how to bake bread from scratch, learning how to make meals out of whatever I had. I was getting over a dozen eggs a day. We ate a lot of quiche. Okay. And I had all of the things in bulk because God had already laid it on my heart to do these things, to cook from scratch, to um have, bulk flour and sugar and water and broth and to preserve. I had learned how to can, I had learned how to freeze, I had learned how to dehydrate. I am still working on that part though. I haven't quite gotten the whole dehydrate. I really want to get a freeze dryer, but we're off topic now. Um, I learned how to do these things from scratch. And so when COVID happened, I was prepared. To the best of my ability, I was prepared. Now, I didn't have, a dairy cow or goats, but I had eggs. I didn't have, uh any other sources of meat, but I had chickens. I had a garden where a lot of our produce was grown. I was growing squash, zucchini, okra, onions, garlic, tomatoes, peppers, green beans, peas. Like, we were good. And if I hadn't actually taken the time to learn these skills to make meals out of what we had, we probably would have had a hard time. And so I thank God for preparing me for that. But that was when I was like, you know what? This is the life that we need to be living. Not just me, but all of us. Because being totally dependent on the grocery stores for our every need was really not healthy. Not just in a sense of like diet and exercise type of health, like illness and stuff, even though that's a big thing, but just in the sense of stress and comfort and stability. Because even now with the food prices, like I can go to the grocery store now and pick up some things and I'm like, I know for a fact that the last time I was at this grocery store it was half this price. We are seeing that happening now. And I can make a decision and say, you know what? I don't need these Hawaiian rolls. They're way too expensive. I'm going to go home and bake my own rolls. I can look at, um, a bag of onions because I use a lot of onions and say, these onions are too expensive. This bag is like $7. It used to be 3. Um, and I can go home and I have some that I still have, but if I don't have any stored up, then I can make something else. Like, one thing that I had to learn how to do was eat seasonally, but also make do with what I had. And after I got that, I was good. Me and the kids gonna eat regardless. We're gonna eat. And that is why I believe I got started and why I am serious about this homesteading thing. This has been such an amazing journey. There were some losses, there were some failures, but there was a lot of learning and a lot of gaining wisdom. And the wisdom that I've gained in this 1 acre of land that I have is preparing me for the acreage to come. And I think that my dream to be able to live off of my land is a lot more attainable now because of the small steps that I took. And so, if I was to do anything with this video or this podcast to encourage someone, if I was to just have a message that I wanted to give, it would be to start where you are and to encourage you that failure, first off, is a part of learning and not to give up. I had woke up one day and said, this is what I want to do. I didn't have the resources. I still don't have the resources to do exactly what I want to do. But I kept pushing. I kept watching YouTube videos and I really appreciated the young lady that I followed from day one because she made it so relatable. There were some videos that I watched and these people already had it all together. Their kitchen was immaculate. They had every tool that you could possibly need. Their garden was amazing. They had tractors and stuff that I just didn't have. And it made me feel like I couldn't do it. But when I watched the young lady that I started following, her and her husband and their 5 boys, they really were relatable. I remember her earlier videos, her talking about some of the financial issues that they had and how they made it work. And that encouraged me because I have 6 girls now. And although I don't have a husband at this time, um, I am able to utilize what I do have to provide for my family. And I appreciate the encouragement that I received to keep going. And I hope that I can encourage others in the same way. So, why did I get started homesteading and gardening? I wanted to control what me and my kids were eating. I wanted to be able to survive off of our land if we had to. I am in no way, shape, or form a prepper, but I am using God given wisdom to make sure that me and my kids are set, that we are able to live comfortably no matter what's going on around us. And so that is why I started homesteading and gardening. And that is why I hope that I can encourage some of you to do the same. So I thank you so much for listening in, watching my videos. I thank you for your patience because I do have to get some things worked out here as far as like recording on a regular basis and the tools that I need. But I thank you all for sticking in there with me. And I hope that I get to impart some wisdom and experiences and knowledge as we go along this journey because I'm still learning, but I want to share with you all so that we can learn together. And so until next time, y'all, be blessed.